Hey guys, Stealth here and welcome back to Arms Trade Tycoon Tanks. Or, well, Tank Tycoon for short. This is the new closed beta that they have given me access to, so thank you for the devs for that. I'm going to be playing as much as I can, which is 2 years. We're going to be only running for 2 years. The situation is so that there might still be bugs, so if you encounter any as you're playing the closed beta, by all means report them in the Discord, and that way they can fix those, and same for typos and stuff. So you might find some things that are simply not ready yet. Now, I'm going to be starting a new game as Stealth 17 Armored Solutions, and we are going to be trying to get as rich as possible selling tanks. Now, in case you haven't seen the game before, as you're looking at it, we have clockwise a couple of different buildings. Design is where all the design work happens on new tanks. Engineering is where you engineer parts for said tanks that you design in the design bureau. So over here you basically put together the whole tank, but in the engineering bureau you, for example, do some engineering on a new barrel, maybe some new tracks, a new engine, things that you can really fine-tune to serve your needs that will work in the design bureau. Research bureau basically unlocks new parts. Admin controls everything about your factory, such as controlling how many workers you have, whether you want to hire more. Some general health and safety things are in here. Production hall, where you build your tanks. Then we have over here the museum, in case you have older tanks, but with a 2-year lifespan of this campaign, I think it's not going to be that important. Proving grounds is where you test the tank. This is going to show you if the tank has any flaws and what can be improved. Test drive is where you can test drive the tank yourself on the test track that you see here on the left. And the warehouse is where you actually build the tanks, or sorry, send out the tanks that you have built in the production hall, and or get new resources to build more tanks in the production hall. So all of these buildings interact with the factory in some given way. Now it's 1914, it is 1st of July, and at the moment we don't have any kind of armor. There are no active military campaigns. So World War I doesn't really need tanks at the moment, but soon they'll come knocking. And I intend to be ready. So let's get a new research going. I want to start focusing a bit more on the medium hull, as opposed to the, let's say, the Mark I tank, the rhomboidal hull. So we're first going to have to go and research RHA steel. It's going to take me 30 days. I'll start that up. There is a sort of built-in tutorial, if you will, in this first couple of months. So the game is going to go, hello, I'm Douglas Murray, and I have been appointed as your advisor. He's going to go and talk you through some of these things. So he says, go to the design bureau and begin the design process. So we really don't have a whole lot of designs, because we only got the parts for the Mark I. This is your box standard tank, as it was in World War I. Now, as you can see over here, we only have the hull, and the hull is going to be your most important building block, because it dictates what else can go on the tank. If you have, for example, a tank with a turret, that's going to say, well, the hull has a turret, so we're going to have to put a gun in the turret. Right now, we don't have any such thing, but we will be able to in a minute. Now, what you can see over here is a new design, but since we haven't unlocked any new parts, I can just use the Daimler Knight 6-cylinder Mark I. This one, I believe, is basically the same engine. But, well, they weigh the same, they take the same amount of time. We're just going to put in the one that we have. Then we're going to have the Centipede Mark I tracks. And once we have those, we actually open up the way to add a couple of sponsons. This is where you put the gun. We're going to have a sponson on the right side, sponson on the left. We're going to have a Hotchkiss 6-pounder on the left, on the right. A Lewis machine gun on the front. And then we have all the components of the tank. You also want to have a couple of crew members in here. And on the right-hand side, you can see how many crew members you need. You need 5 commander points. You need 4 driver points, etc. I'll not be able to satisfy all the commander points, unfortunately, because the sponsons also want a commander point, and so does the Mark I hull. So we're going to get 4 out of 5. Then we're going to get a driver, so it's going to be a designated driver. We're going to have 2 gunners. We're going to have a gunner loader. We're going to have another 2 loaders. It's going to be a really busy tank. We're going to have a couple of mechanics. And now I have a bit too much mechanic capability, but I'd rather have too much than too little. There's all sorts of issues over here with the tanks. It's going to say, well, you're going to have deficits. You're going to have issues with how aware the crew is. Blocked vision ports. It's going to reduce the crew limit. You're going to have an overloaded commander. So the commander's busy doing everything. And this means that his situational awareness is going to be pretty bad. Crew safety. Yeah, the blocked evacuation path because of the crew limit. I wonder, yeah, see, crew comfort and crew safety now improves. But now we have overloaded mechanics. So this first tank is going to be basically horrible. We'll just have to accept that. That is going to be the way until we get a better tank. So this is going to be... yeah, what are we going to call this one? The Petrov, in name of my campaign series that I'm currently running on Dreadnoughts. So, we're going to have this thing saved. We're going to say, I want to assign all the engineers. It's going to take 18 days to throw this tank design together. Keep in mind, it's the design, it's not the actual tank. Once the design is ready, we can then build that in the production hall. So in 18 days, we'll be able to get that to work. Let's move on. There we go. Following the early success of tanks on the battlefield, the High Command is ready to form additional tank regiments for the ongoing war effort. Make sure to invest your manufacturing capabilities to keep up with the rising demand. At the moment there isn't any demand, nor is there a whole lot of money, so I'm not that eager to invest. I know that investing is something that will yield money later, ideally, but that's not something I'm going to do. Now, our advisor now says go to a research bureau and get a research project going, but I've already done that, so I'm going to skip over that. The engineering bureau is something I'm not going to go into right now because I don't have anything to engineer. Stop by the production hall, begin building the sub-assembly line and the riveting workshop to increase our production capability. So, production hall is over here. They want a sub-assembly line, which is this one. Keep in mind, it does cost you a pretty penny, and it also costs you 5,000 bucks a month to run this thing. Which means that, yes, they might give you an assembly focus, so your man-hour production, or man-hour cost is reduced, but it does cost you quite a lot to keep this facility going. So they said to get this one, and the riveting hall, which is this one, increases or reduces the production cost due to available riveting machinery. I am not going to do this. I don't think I need this. It is also going to cost me another 20k to build, and then 3.5k per month to maintenance, so as much as they might want me to do that, I am not actually going to build that. We are increasing our operations, and the risk of fire and human injury are growing more significant. Go to admin quarters and construct fire and medical stations. Now this is something that you definitely want to have going on, because I did a test campaign and I did not build the fire station. And I had fires breaking out over the factory left, right and center, costing me a lot of money. Anyway, the Petrov design is now ready. I can now build the Petrov over here in the production line. This is going to These are all the defects. Look at that. It's not necessarily a bad tank because of this, however. So you might get a ton of defects and you might go, holy shit, this thing is awful. Yeah, it's probably awful. It doesn't mean it's useless. It might very well mean that the tank, with all of its defects, can still perform the role that the government wants it to perform. For now, though, I am going to have this thing not built yet. I first want to put it through the proving grounds. So I'm going to put the Petrov in here, they're going to test it, and they grant me an understanding of the design defects and unlock them for the amendment. This means that once we have tested this thing, we can go, okay, so that's a problem, and the other thing is a problem. We can either amend that, so we can fix it, or you can just ignore it. I can test it, and I can also test drive it myself. And that's something that you do over here in the test drive. Now, with one of these really old tanks, that is not that interesting. But I especially am looking forward to the later design phases where, let's say the later years, where you'll actually be able to design and drive, I don't know, a T-34, an M1 Abrams, stuff like that. Now first we're going to have to cross a trench. It is World War I after all. And that means crossing trenches is key. The terrain over here is not very great, but at least it's not muddy. So our tank should be able to slip right through. Over on the top right hand side you can see I have a countdown timer. It says 9 minutes and I have 30 points. I need to gain 300 points on the testing grounds, the proving grounds here. Now, over on the bottom hand, or the bottom screen, you can see I have the Hotchkiss QF 6-pounder. I have 2 of those, but for this particular target and the one over there, we're just going to use the machine gun. Taking down those targets also grants you points. Next thing you need to do, cross this little, I don't know, bridge. I'm not even sure if that's the right description for it, but we'll go with bridge. Come on, dude. Don't get stuck here now. Move. There we go. Now, there's all sorts of targets. You can decide if you want to engage them or not. If you don't, you might need to go faster in order to get more points that way. But since we are a tank, I want to be able to engage this tank as well. Tank destroyed. I think the visual indication for that could be a little bit better. Something smoking like this could mean it's destroyed. It could also mean that the tank is, well, on fire. Which might mean it's less functional, but not necessarily completely dysfunctional. Alright, let's go for the targets over here. Keep in mind, you only have a limited set of ammunition. So if you want to be able to continue to fire, you're going to have to change the design of the tank and add more additional ammunition cans. Let's take out the A7V there. 150 points out of 300. We're making progress. Let's go back on the road. As you might imagine, I've already done this course a few times, as I've played the game a few times. So I know what to expect and where to go. This testing ground is definitely, well, very much in line with what you would expect from a World War I tank. An Abrams, for example, would feel probably highly out of place here. Because of the range of the engagements, that testing ground that we're on right now is simply not going to be that useful. So for, let's say, future game development, I expect to see different testing grounds that grow with potentially the desire of the customer. If you're building a tank for desert warfare, well, you probably don't want this Petrov Mark I tank, because I don't think it's going to get anywhere very quickly. It's going to run out of fuel, as indicated by the fuel indicator at the bottom of the screen, which means I don't think it's going to get very far in, let's say, a World War II drawn-out style in desert Africa. In the trenches, yeah, it might do very well, because it's got a lot of infantry support, it doesn't have to go very far, and it can get refueled every, I don't know, 15 miles, every 20 kilometers or so. So in that sense, it's fine. Now, up the ramp, up the hill, make a right. Past all of these obstacles here. Crossing another trench. Keep in mind, not all trenches are able to get crossed very easily. If you got a smaller hull, you might suffer with that. So a medium tank might be faster, might be able to complete the course faster, but it might suffer with trenches. So a design requirement in a contract is going to dictate what sort of design you will want to be able to deliver for the tank. These things are British, so I'm not going to shoot them. We're going to make another turn to the left. Already got 280 points. Let's bring the right gun up. Target down, 290 points. Got another couple of targets here, and boom, completed, because I actually went to the final marker. And I got more than 300 points in slightly under 5 minutes. I got 14 out of 15 waypoints, I had 13 out of 24 soft targets, and a total score of 305 means this thing has exceptional performance. So I guess we can overlook some of the flaws. Now, let's wait until something comes up like a contract. Of course, I'm not the only one hunting for contracts, because the Holt Manufacturing Company is also looking to get contracts. The contracts will eventually pop up. Yeah, I don't need to purchase more raw materials. Not now, thank you very much. The contracts will eventually pop up. No, I don't want to hire additional engineers either. Not yet. Ah, RHA steel is ready. Now, when you're doing these research things, keep in mind that getting this medium hull is not going to be enough. I.e., if you want to be able to get this thing to go anywhere, you're going to get mobility. And this medium hull doesn't exactly use these high-pass running gears. It uses the low-pass running gears, so you're going to have to research those too. Or you might have a very advanced hull that's going to be sitting in your production hall, not going anywhere because it doesn't have any tracks. Same for firepower. You might have a fantastic hull that's armed with a machine gun. How useful is that going to be to the client? That is going to be up to you. Now there is a tier 2 over here. It's not something I can actually click on because I simply haven't researched any of these things yet. And I imagine that this is not even going to be part of the beta. I don't think I'll be able to go through all of these in 2 years, but who knows? We'll see eventually. Now, when it comes to ammunition, I'm not going to look into this too much yet. I'm going to get that medium hull research. It's going to take me 39 days. And as you can see, it's going to give me all of these parts, which are required to get the medium whippet going. So these parts are something that you sort of get once you research the medium hull. At the moment, I only have 20 engineers. As you progress through the game, and I think it might not be part of the beta yet, but you'll be able to get either more research lines or the ergonomics office, which will give you the opportunity to give more engineers per line. And as such, you'll be able to research faster. Keep in mind, it's going to cost you money to build, it's going to cost you money to run. If you focus on this, you might have a tech advantage over your competitors, which might make your tanks more appealing, but if it bankrupts you in the process, well, what good is all this tech going to be? What good is all this tech going to be? We did get the new design, so let's have a look. With the Mark I, we're currently using the wrought iron steel. Sorry, the wrought iron Mark I. This has a couple of properties such as mass, kinetic resistance, and shock resistance. You can see that with the RHA, rolled homogeneous steel, it is going to be far heavier, but your protection is better. And this could mean that this is a worthy upgrade, but it makes the tank more expensive. Now, since contracts only award you a certain amount of money, that might mean that this tank, it could be a far better tank, but if it's going to be far too expensive to run, i.e. it's going to cost you more money to build than actually to profit from, then it doesn't really matter, does it? I do want to get these things researched, but I'm not going to do a whole lot of engineering with them. Now, there's tons of other parts that you can work on if you have them researched, such as the sight. This is the armor. You got the assembly line. I now have the riveted assembly, but there's also different types of assembly. Ammo stowage is not something I've researched yet. Same for external crew communication. We don't have radios yet. Shell stowage, not that much to engineer if I only got one of them. So all of these things, they're going to take a while. And this is just the modifications to the general hull. You can also engineer certain components, such as the sponson. I can say, you know what, I'm going to use the Mark I with the basic wrought iron hull, but I would like to use the male sponson with the RHA. This way, the sponson is going to have more armor, and since this is a part where the gun sits, that might make the gun more durable. And the same can be said for the Hotchkiss. Over here, again, I don't have any parts researched at the moment, but you can get this gun tweaked to exactly what you want it to do, how you want it to perform, how expensive you want it to be in terms of resources, money, and man-hours, and all of these things will eventually tie into your bottom line. So pick wisely. Don't just go and over-engineer anything, because it's not going to be very profitable if you do it like that. Tank trials for the Petrov has now been concluded, so the proving grounds has now gone through that tank. At this point, we can, I think in the design bureau, have a look at the Petrov and see what sort of issues she has. You can see that there's quite a lot of them. Blocked vision. Crew awareness severely limited. I can improve this for 2,500 bucks. This means I'm going to get a reduction in the performance, if you will, the achievement points. And the crew performance is going to go from -5 to -3. So it is an improvement. But I think for now, you know, it's not that bad. Yes, there are some issues. Some issues are more expensive to replace than others, by the way. Crammed environment, yeah. It's going to be a little cozy in there. You got like 6 or 7 guys sitting there. But like, it doesn't do anything. It only changes the achievement. Now, this achievement score, achievement points, is important once you actually get a contract. And that contract is going to say you're going to have X amount of performance from the tank, X amount of achievement. And once you get that, you'll be able to either compete for the contract or not. And you can tweak something such as your price to try and figure out what is going to be profitable and what is not. A little later, the first contract is announced. So let's have a look and see what the Brits want. They want a tank that has a certain amount of crew performance, mobility, protection, etc. I am going to just submit my only tank design, which is the Petrov. And then we'll see how well this thing performs. Something else you can see is how well your competitor offer are looking. They have a success score which is very, very high. 275 to 309. Mine is only 146. Now, you can make your offer more appealing by, for example, reducing the price of the tank. By potentially building more... No, not building more tanks. This is going to be very, very, very difficult to beat, if at all possible. If I set this... Yeah. If I'm going to beat them, I'm going to have to beat the 309. So, let's say 27,000? Yeah. We can go a little higher, but I think I'll barely turn a profit on this thing. This should do it. This should do it. Petrov is going to cost me 15k in money. This is going to include all the parts. Keep in mind, this is the cost for the tank. You're not including the cost for your staff. That is something that's going to be potentially a bit of a challenge. Also, I have to deliver 20 tanks in a couple of months. They want these by the 7th of January. That's going to be pretty soon. It's going to be pretty soon. If you do not have a tank delivered, you're going to get a penalty of 43,000 bucks, which is substantial. So yeah, I will turn a profit. Like it's gonna make me 580,000. Let's see how much higher I can push this. No, I'm not gonna chance it on 5,000. So let's submit this. And the application deadline is going to be November. I'm going to go ahead and say they probably want this tank. So we're going to start assembling this tank. We're going to be assembling a couple of these Petrovs. Let's say I want to have at least 10 of them. That's going to cost you a bunch of money. 151k, which is bad news because I only got a 190. I might be able to get like an extension, a loan, but it's going to be really expensive to get all these 20 tanks built. Nevertheless, in 65 days, we'll be able to get these tanks built. Is that fast enough? Afraid not. Afraid not. We'll have to assign these guys, and then we're going to head over to the administration office to figure out how we're going to pay for all this. Because I can get a bank loan for, let's say, 450k. It's going to take 3 years to pay off, but of course that might mean that we're going to have more interest. Because the annual bank interest is 15%. The bank wants a lot of money. Now, for this one, I can just push it down to like maybe 2 years. Which will be a hefty payoff, but it might just work. Actually, no, let's leave it at 3. I think it might be safest. There. Get a new loan. You're about to sign a new bank loan. Yes, I want to do that. I also want to hire additional staff, because I got 120... No, here. Workers. The workers built the tank. So we're going to hire another 60 workers. That should speed up production. Because with those guys on the line, And they don't immediately spawn, they don't immediately arrive, if you will. So it's going to take a little bit of time. Once they arrive, the production should jump from 65 to something far lower. Now, what the Petrov might also need is an additional bit of machinery. Over here. Riveting focus. That's going to cut down the man hours, the same for machinery, the same for machinery workshop. Milling focus, rifling focus, and the cutting focus. So I need a lot. Let's go for the machinery workshop. So that is the riveting focus. Keep in mind, building a building, well, again, they don't spawn. So that's the riveting hole, 40 days. It does only cut your production down. Oh, sorry, that's the rifling hole. A riveting hole cuts it down by 10%. Milling hole, 10%. But 10% of man hours is substantial. Oh, sorry, production cost. It's not man hours, it's production cost. So let's go for riveting. It's going to cost you another 20k. Let's go and build that. And let's see if I can get this tank built in time. And that I get this contract awarded. Otherwise, I'm going to have a lot of contract or a lot of tanks doing nothing. But yes, they did accept the contract. Huge step forward. Unfortunately, they don't pay you in advance. They only pay you when you deliver more tanks. Immediately, the Germans respond. The army core grows stronger. That is interesting. If I'm able to sell to the Germans, well, I will. New diplomatic agreement. What? Interesting. Britain and Germany have entered into a non-aggression pact, underscoring the resolute commitment to refraining from hostile actions or aggression against each other. Ah, yes. In the beta, they have changed it so it's not strictly following World War I. It's more of a sandbox, and it can go any which way. So it's entirely possible that you're going to have, I don't know, a war between Britain and France, which would be a different war, requiring potentially a different type of tank. All sorts of interesting developments happening. There we go. Research for the bolted assembly is ready. I have also researched that new medium hull. So I now have quite a bit of progress in mobility. We're also going to have to try and tie that into firepower. So when it comes to mobility, let's say I'm now, structure, I'm now at this tier. I'm also going to try and bring my firepower and my mobility up to that tier. So let's go for solid rounds, 20 days, yes. And we're going to have to wait until that completes. Now, I have built quite a decent number of these tanks, but I think I'm going to run into a problem. Here's the problem. I need 13 more days to complete production of the tanks. But in 18 days, the deadline is up. At which point, I will need to have built all of the 20 tanks. And not only built, but also shipped. I need to have these things delivered to the front line. Well, not to the front line, more like to the client. At the moment, I have 16 in stock, so I'll send all 16, because I cannot wait. And they're going to have to get there really quickly. So the delivery speed is going to be key. A delivery speed of 5 days, that's going to have to be it. We're going to have to ship as many of these things out as possible. If I take a hit and have to send like 4 of them, or if I cannot send 4 of them, I might be able to roll those over to a different contract, or, well, I'm going to have to pay a fine. Let's hope this completes in 5 days and that the additional workers arrive very quickly, because I need those guys to work on my tanks. Ideally, quickly. What the fuck? Why are you idle? What the hell? You guys should be immediately added to the production line. I'm not sure why that isn't happening automatically. Bloody hell. This could have been explained a little better. Okay, so now I had like 60 guys sitting there doing nothing. This means I only have 10 days left to complete the tank. I might be able to complete the whole contract. Let's hope so. Because if I don't, it's going to cost me a lot of money. So let's send these guys out. Ah, another contract is up. 20 tanks. They want another 20. Let's have a look. Is this going to require the same type of armor? The same type of design? I really hope so, because I got nothing better. Yeah, they're sending in the Hector again. So we're going to have to reduce price to like 27,000. Success score is very high. Way too high, actually. So I can probably squeeze a bunch more money out of the government, which if you can do, is a good thing. So we're going to ask them for 29,500. That means my success score is slightly over that of the Hector competitor. And so far, all of these things do appear to be in the green. Crew performance, I'm not sure which one is... Yeah. Okay, so the mass that they require is 35k. And available is 30k. So they actually want a heavier tank, which is something I don't have. They also want a tank that is less mobile. They want a tank that has less protection. Less firepower. More soft firepower. No, sorry, less soft firepower. Yeah, so my tank is superior in all regards. This is going to award me 590k if I get it. And I can say I want to be able to ship this thing a little later. So you can buy yourself more time. But that is quite literally buying yourself more time, because it might give you a bit of a breather, which I will take, but it's going to cost you profits. It's going to cost you your margins on your tank. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to say I can send this thing into you by March 14th, but it's going to cost me a little bit of profits, which I will accept. There we go. 16 out of 20 tanks delivered. There's only 5 days left. And there is 13 days left, so I should be able to complete this tank. And I have been accepted. Excellent. Stop. We're going to ship these things out immediately. And with that, complete the first contract. So these guys, all 4 of them, they're going to go on a high-speed transport right towards the client. 5 days, with a medium chance there's going to be a delay of 7. If that happens, I'm fucked. Because I don't have that level of time. I get 6 days. And now I have 72 days to get another bunch of tanks produced. And this is going to be the focal point of the next episode. Because this is going to mean I need more warehouse capability to bring in supplies. As I will not have enough resources left. Hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. If you like what you see, then please wishlist the game. Link down below in the description. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. And I'll see you guys soon for the next episode.